On the news tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari reiterates commitment to implementing 30,000 naira new national minimum wage. In business, the Federation Account Allocation Committee (FAC) revenue disbursement hit 6.226 trillion naira in the third quarter of 2018. And on the foreign scene, the Saudi Arabia King Salman Abdulaziz addressed his Shura Council with no statement on Khashoggi's killing. Hello and welcome to Superscreen's News at 8, the flash of news. I am Olamide Onka. We're reaching you live from Lagos State, the center of excellence here in Nigeria. And now it's time for us to get into the main business of the day with the story where President Muhammadu Buhari has met behind closed doors with representatives of the Nigerian Governors Forum, NGF, over the disagreement between the organized labor and the state governors on the proposed 30,000 naira minimum wage. The president expressed his commitment to ensuring the implementation of the new national minimum wage and pledged to transmit an executive bill to the National Assembly for its passage within the shortest time possible. You will recall that the chairman of the NGF and Zamfara State Governor, Abdulaziz Yari, on November 15, said payment of the 30,000 wage is impracticable for the government. And now President Muhammadu Buhari has promised to overhaul the education sector if he's re-elected in 2019. The president disclosed this at an event tagged The Next Level to mark the launch of his campaign ahead of the election. The president said his administration will remodel 10,000 schools every year. The president also promised to intensify the anti-graft war and bring an end to the menace and ensure that the nation's resources are maximized. The campaign manifesto unveiled by the candidates of the All Progressives Congress, APC, President Muhammadu Buhari has been generating reactions. Some Nigerians who spoke with Superscreen's Kiruka Ibe in Lagos expressed dismay over the president's new promises.
With less than 4 months to the 2019 general elections, political parties with the launch of election campaigns have begun unveiling their manifestos, and the most noticeable of these manifestos is that of the incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari of the All Progressives Congress (APC) and his contender, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party (PDP). Spokespersons of these two candidates believe strongly in their victory.
This administration has done so much with so little. And they could do so much with so little because they were able to curb this grand corruption. Once you can curb grand corruption, you can save enough money to do so much. And that is exactly what this administration has done.
They have failed because they have been applying the wrong tactics, the wrong attitude, and the wrong ideas to solving a problem that will yield to better understanding, bigger concepts, and better listening to people and taking in their views.
Superscreen sought the views of Nigerians about the promises of these two contenders, but it appears they are more interested in reacting to the sitting president's new promises.
From the beginning of 2015, when he won, he did not do all those things that he promised. And now that he came again that for second tenure and he said he want to do all those things, we disagree, because as for me, we want a good government that we see the average man as one, and we want to vote somebody that we make sure the economy of this country will be stable.
I personally don't believe in the so-called next level. In 2015, when this government was coming in, believing that he is actually bringing a positive change. But to the best of my knowledge, the change he has brought has not been a positive change, because this has been harder for Nigerians.
Either we do away with the old brigade and start afresh. They are basically the same set of people. If you look at people surrounding them, it's the same corrupt guys that are surrounding them. The popular saying, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. Atiku is coming up with Benga Daniel, Saraki. There's nothing new there.
From all indications, the expression of these respondents show they are not impressed with the present administration. But what is worthy of note is that 189 billion naira has been budgeted for the 2019 election.
INEC requested the executive for the sum of 189.2 billion naira for the 2019 elections. Suffice
to say, citizens must encourage themselves in mass participation at the polls to determine the desired future for Nigeria. Nkiruka Ibe, Superscreen TV News.
And now the Atiku Agbaje Media Engagement Network has urged the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, to rescind his proposed policy on the sale of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, if elected. The executive chairman and the director of the campaign support group, Felix Obaguina, who made this known in a statement, urged Atiku to rather commit to perfecting, signing and implementing the petroleum industry bill within 6 months of coming into power. You will recall that Atiku said he will sell 90% of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and retain just 10% of the company for the federal government if elected. And now Nigerians are being charged to question politicians seeking elective positions on effective ways of delivering their promises or plans. Presidential candidate of the Grassroots Development Party, GDPA, Davidson Akimed, gave the charge today in an interview with Superscreen's Precious Amayo in Lagos State.
2019, I believe, for me, is a time where Nigerians need to know that we want to bring about a complete transformation of our country. And so mass participation of the people in the electioneering process will be required to do that, so that if the yearnings of the people now is for a new thing altogether, then the people must express their rights by going to the polls. You understand what I'm saying? By going to the polls and voting that kind of leader that they have yearned for all of these years. Because as it is now, there's a complete disillusionment, disaffection, and dissatisfaction with the extant political class.
Akimen further charged Nigerians on taking government up on failed or unaccomplished promises.
The need for the people to be aware of their rights and their privileges. The citizens need to be able to interrogate power. They need to be able to interrogate power. And for 2019, before leaders come and bamboozle them, they should question them on what their deliverables are. What do they want to bring to the table? How does it affect the life of the citizen? Because ultimately, government is all about concern and welfare for the citizens of the country that they govern. So the citizens should be able to interrogate their leaders before putting them in power. Now, if they are not convinced, they are not satisfied, either by way of the leader's expression or by way of their track record, then they should vote them out or not even vote them in at all. We want that kind of country where government will be empathetic to the sufferings of the people and the actions of government will be justiciable also. We want that kind of country, and our people should be interrogating that.
The leadership of the National Assembly has assured the international community of its commitment to continue its legislative duties in spite of the commencement of campaigns for the 2019 general elections. The Senate President, Bukola Saraki, gave the assurance when he received the British Acting High Commissioner to Nigeria, Harriet Thompson, in his office.
I hope that again, the interests of the country and processes and ensuring that we have credible election should be the determining factor in decides what to sign. A lot of work has gone into it, and we're still waiting to see whether we get the assent of the president.
The High Commissioner called on security agencies to remain impartial in the electoral process, as she also urged political parties to discourage vote buying, which she said undermines election credibility.
We drew attention to the fact that as Friends of Nigeria and maintaining our resolutely objective position, we do not support any particular candidate or party, but we are strongly in support of a process that is free, fair and credible. We are very pleased to hear from both the Leader of the Majority and from the Senate President that there is great commitment to continuing that important work. And the bills that we particularly mentioned were the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, the Police Reform Bill, the Communities and Allied Matters Act, the Gender Equality Bill, the Disabilities Bill.
The British envoy also reminded the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to remain neutral in the discharge of its responsibilities. As the 2019 election campaign begins, the United States, the European Union and 23 other Western nations have called for transparent campaigns in the run-up to the elections. The group, in a joint statement in Abuja, said they will follow the campaigns and monitor the election process closely. They warned political and non-political actors against hate speeches and violence, adding that their concern is to see a process leading to free, fair, transparent and peaceful elections. The body also urged all voters to use their democratic rights and vote, adding that they are particularly keen to see greater participation of women, youths, and people living with disabilities. The Federal High Court in Abuja says the trial of detained former National Security Advisor Colonel Sambo Dasuki on charges of money laundering and illegal possession of firearms would henceforth proceed in his absence. Justice Ahmed Mohammed, in making the order, invoked the provisions of Section 352, subsection 4 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, which allows the trial of a defendant to proceed in his or her absence if there is no reasonable explanation for the absence of the defendant. Justice Mohammed added that the letter by the ex-NSA, coupled with his absence from court on November 13, showed he is no longer interested in appearing in court for trial. The judge fixed December 11 for continuation of trial with or without Dasuki's presence in court. Coming up on Superscreen's flagship news tonight, the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, FAC, and the revenue disbursement hit 6.226 trillion naira in the third quarter of 2018. Details of this story and many more in business after this break. Welcome back to Superscreen's flagship news, and now for some business stories. The Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, FAC, says its revenue disbursement to the three tiers of government has hit 6.226 trillion in the third quarter of 2018. The information, which was contained in the latest edition of the Nigeria Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative Quarterly Review, released in Abuja, shows there have been a steady increase in the first three quarters of this year, with 2.28 trillion shared in the third quarter of 2018. The body said the federal government received the highest sum of 904.8 billion, followed by states which received 718.5 billion and local governments receiving the lowest disbursement of 432.1 billion. NAT further reviewed that the federal government's receipt of 904.8 billion in the third quarter of 2018 was 11% higher than the amounts received in the first quarter and second quarter respectively. The Minister of Works, Power and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, says the current administration has delivered more on its promises than the previous government. Fashola, who made this assertion while addressing journalists, said President Muhammadu Buhari's administration is currently executing 365 road projects simultaneously in 36 states to be delivered within the shortest period of time. In the remarks, the Special Advisor to the President on Social Investment Program, Miriam Owais, said empowering the youth for national development has been the priority of the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. The Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, MOMAN, and the Depot and Petroleum Product Marketers Association of Nigeria, DAPMEN, have decried the delay in payment of outstanding subsidy debts owed by the federal government. MOMAN Executive Secretary Clement Isong, who made this known, said the continued non-payment has severely impacted the working capital, ability to pay loans and service providers. DAPMEN Executive Secretary Olufemi Adewale also said the processes highlighted for payment by the government are inimical to the operations of the business. The association appealed to the government to facilitate the payment of the debts by the agency saddled with the responsibility. You will recall that the Senate had in July approved the payment of subsidy claims totaling 348 billion naira to all marketing companies based on a request by the President Muhammadu Buhari. Still talking business, the Zimbabwean gold mines have been allowed to retain 55% of their earnings in dollars from 30% previously. The Deputy Mines Minister, Polite Kamabura, disclosed this as the government moves to ensure their operations remains viable. Kamabura said miners of gold, the country's largest mineral export, should be allowed to earn up to 70% of their sales in dollars. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe had agreed to increase large-scale miners and the retention of foreign currency for mineral exports to 55% to allow them cover production costs. Still ahead tonight on Superscreen's flagship news, Saudi Arabia King Salman Abdulaziz addresses Shura Council with no statement on Jamal Khashoggi's killing. That's on the foreign scene. We'll bring you details of this and many more in sports and entertainment after this break. Stay with us.